I'd like to thank you for coming today. Today I'd like to tell you some things about Lionel toy trains that you may not have been aware of. I've been interested in Lionel toy trains for over 20 years. I saw one and just fell in love with it. It was large, it was heavy, and for me it just seemed to personify some of the things that were really great about American manufacturing, the kind of things that we were able to do. As I started studying the history of Lionel trains, I found out that that was in fact true through their quality of production, their design, their execution of advertising, service after the sale. They really did personify and were one of those companies that you think of when people say they don't build them like they used to. Lionel toy trains started with Joshua Lionel Cowan, who was born in New York City in 1877. He was born to parents who had emigrated from Poland. They were Jewish. He was a typical youth of the time. He enjoyed playing in the street, stickball, riding his bicycle, was fascinated with electricity. He was very inquisitive. He liked to take things apart and put them back together again, sometimes. As he got older, he bounced back and forth between New York City College and Columbia College. He couldn't really find a place where he was really happy. He began working for Acme Lighting Company in 1895, and while he was very, very happy there because he got to play with his favorite toy, electricity, while he was there he developed a dry cell battery, which was interesting for the time because there were wet cell batteries like in a car battery, and they sloshed around. It would only hold a charge for 30 days, but was still a very important invention. He also developed an ignition system for camera flash powder that ignited it, and was apparently interesting enough for the Navy to call on him to build ignition systems for weapons, and he was awarded with a $12,000 contract, which he then took in 1902 to start Lionel Manufacturing Company. In 1902, he was in the shop and started experimenting with a crude circle of track that he built, and made a train, more accurately a box with an electric motor, powered by one of his dry cell batteries, and sold it to Ingersolls to use in a window display to attract shoppers. It did attract shoppers. They bought the train. And Mr. Ingersoll came back the next day, bought another one. Next week he came back, bought 6 more, and soon retailers all over New York City wanted these trains for their store windows. Before you knew it, Lionel Manufacturing was making trains full time. They were very successful. By 1909 they had sales of almost $57,000 a year, and were very successful actually through the Depression, even when their highest quality set, the Blue Comet set, cost as much as a living room set at the time. During the Second World War, they stayed in business by switching over to manufacturing compasses for ships. And then in the late 40s, after the Second World War, in the 1950s, entered into what people refer to as Lionel's Golden Age. They produced incredible trains of just built to last, because many of their engineers actually rose through the ranks from assembly, so they knew how things worked from the top down. And in that manner were able to build, design simple systems that were easy to build and easy to maintain, and were backed up with authorized service stations, so you could take your train to your local hardware store and get it fixed. They also had a very interesting sales staff that would call on accounts and go into department stores to talk to sales managers. If they saw a competing American Flyer train on the wall, they wanted that space, and they would go over and pick up an extruded aluminum passenger car that they knew was sharp underneath and run their finger underneath it, intentionally cutting themselves, feigning ignorance, and saying to the sales manager, "Oh my, what will Mrs. Johnson say when little Johnny cuts his finger?" and was actually able to gain some market share in that manner. The advertising was cutting edge. It took full advantage of the euphoria that we felt as a nation after the Second World War, the rise in single-family homes, and instilled in people the idea that your family really wasn't complete unless it had a Lionel train. They also took advantage of the newfound time that fathers were supposed to have with all the newfangled time-saving gadgets to spend with their son, the quality father-son time. The advertising quite frequently showed a father in an Oxford shirt, sometimes without a tie, smoking a pipe on the floor with the son, playing with their Lionel trains and enjoying this quality time. They appealed to children with advertising that was larger than life. Trains literally the size of houses, with steam, wheels moving, blurred, speed lines, smoke, a light shining into the distance. The child, a foot tall, amazed and awed. And actually the catalogs became very prized possessions of children just for those pictures as they would read them. They also had employees that felt a part of Lionel. Even people in the lowest ranks of entry-level employees felt that they were a part of a family. They had in-house nurses, they had daycare, they had a community garden, they had softball leagues, bowling leagues, they had picnics with food and beverage. They rewarded longevity in the company, and everyone felt proud of what they did, and that was mirrored in their products. In that manner, the combination of the quality manufacture, the ingenuity, the pioneering design, the utilization of advertising at its highest level, and employee satisfaction, as well as shareholder satisfaction, all really did personify what people think of as the great corporations of America and the vision of what we see as what is right and good in society and the world. Sometimes when we're looking for answers in the present, we may find them in the past. But don't let the history outweigh the fact that they are marvelous toys and a lot of fun to play with. I'd like to thank you for coming today, and hopefully you learned some things about Lionel trains that you may not have been aware of. And I'd like you to have a good day and hopefully play with some toy trains. Thank you again.